Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. For today's video, we're going to talk about what my experience was like buying the Ioniq 5. Personally, I know it was really hard to find one in the area and even harder to find one at MSRP. So hopefully this story helps as you guys continue to search for your own. So it all started for me roughly end of January. I was throwing around the idea with my wife about trading in my car and trying to buy an EV so that we could take advantage of the great trade values and also the tax credit. Eventually we decided on the XC40 Recharge, but then I made some calls and realized, we probably weren't going to be able to get one anytime soon. The dealers were saying maybe summer of 2022, if you're lucky. So then we started looking at the Polestar 2. The test drive process was really cool. They brought the car over to my house. Otherwise, the dealer was about an hour away. And I thought it was cool. I thought it had a lot of power, and certain things were nice about it, but I didn't really like the interior space. Felt kind of cramped. So I started looking at what else is available, and that's when I came across the Ioniq 5 listings. And I had previously seen the reviews from guys like Doug DeMuro and Redline Reviews, so I already knew that I was kind of interested. But then I spent the afternoon looking at more specs, doing more research, and by the end I was pretty sure that the Ioniq 5 was the one I wanted. So then we ended up testing one a few days later, and that's when I was pretty much 100% sold that it was the car that I wanted. So then I ended up calling about 15 dealerships in the Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware area. Most of the local Delaware and Pennsylvania dealers were telling me, hey, we're not going to get any cars until later in the year. And all of the local New Jersey dealers actually had some SEs and SELs, but they all had pretty significant markups, anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000 above MSRP. So then I started calling farther out, and I found, I think, 2 dealers in the Harrisburg area that were selling Ioniq 5s at MSRP, and they actually had, I think, a couple SEs in stock, but none of them had any limiteds. So I ended up giving them my contact information and saying, hey, let me know if you get an allocation for one. And a couple of days later, I actually got a call. One of the dealers said, hey, we're getting a Cyber Gray Limited coming in on February 23rd. I immediately told him I wanted it, but he said, we don't take deposits. It's first come, first serve. But he also said, hey, if you show up first thing in the morning when the car arrives, I think you have a pretty good chance at it. I'll tell everyone else at the dealership to back off. So as soon as we hung up, I set up a one-way rental car, my schedule to take off work, and I was really excited. So I just jumped back online and started doing some more research and reading, and that ended up taking me to the Ioniq 5 forums. Huge shout out to that community of members, as I've learned so much about the Ioniq 5 and so much about just the whole buying process. There's a lot of members on there in the same position, either searching or waiting for cars, and there's a lot of useful information on there, a lot of useful websites. So this first one is called theevfinder. It basically pulls the local inventory for you based on your zip code, and also shows you cars that are being allocated to your area and coming from the factory soon. So for this one, if you have the VIN for the car, you can use that to pull the actual window sticker. And that's helpful so you can see the exact color of the exterior, the interior, the exact trim, and also any of the added features for that specific car. Now, if the car has not arrived at the local port yet, there's a good chance that this will not work and you won't be able to pull the window sticker. So if it's not working at first, I would say keep trying. Eventually it should show up. And this next one here is very useful for tracking the status of the car. You'll see there's a line that says status. For this example, it's showing as PA. And on the right, I've listed what some of those abbreviations mean. AA means at sea, meaning the car was already manufactured and is already on a cargo ship headed your way. If it says PA, that means port arrival, or that it's arrived at the local port and they're preparing it for shipment to your local dealer. TN means ready for shipment, meaning it's probably waiting for a delivery truck to get to the dealer. IR or IT means it's on the truck or on the train, depending on how they're getting it to the local dealer. And DS, meaning dealer stock, means it has arrived. So a lot of the forum members were actually stuck at the PA or the TN status. Oftentimes they were waiting beyond the expected delivery date, and then out of the blue they would get a call from the dealer saying, hey, your car actually just arrived, come and get it. Another thing to note is the expected delivery date has a time frame on there, and you'll see in this example it shows as 10:56 p.m. But some of the forum members were saying they actually noticed that the times changed to 8 a.m. when their cars were delivered. Even if the status didn't change, they noticed the time changed, and then they would get the call from the dealer. So definitely something to be aware of. So this is actually the timeline for the car that I had been tracking. The dealer had originally called me on February 13th and said the car was due in on February 23rd. So they gave me the VIN, and when I used the VIN, it showed status AA, meaning it was at C. Then over the next couple of days, I would constantly refresh, constantly check the tracking, and on the very next day, it had changed to PA, meaning it had arrived at port, and then it stayed there for the next couple of days until the 17th. At that point, it changed to shipment ready. So on the 17th, my sales guy and I talked on the phone, and he said, hopefully it comes in soon, but at this point, we just have to wait. I'll let you know as soon as I hear more. So for the next couple of days, I would constantly refresh, constantly check the tracking, and all of a sudden on the morning of the 22nd, I noticed that the time had changed on the tracking. It showed 8 a.m., but it was still showing as TN status. So I called him, and he said, I was there last night, it wasn't there when I left, let me check and see what's going on. So he ended up calling me back a little later and saying, oh, you know what, the car actually sold. Apparently it had come in about an hour after he left and sold immediately to someone nearby. So I think someone else had been tracking it as well. So I was really disappointed because I'd been tracking it for 2 weeks, and that was the exact color, the exact trim that I wanted. But anyways, I went back to theevfinder, I increased my search area, and that's when I came across Hyundai 112, which is in the Long Island, Medford, New York area. I gave them a call, and surprisingly they had 2 shooting stars and a lucid blue in stock, and they were selling at MSRP. So I told them, hey, I'm definitely interested, but I probably can't make it up there until maybe 2 days later. And they said, well, we can't hold the car for you, we don't typically do that, we don't take deposits, but we can give you status updates. So the following day, they gave me probably 2 or 3 calls letting me know, hey, the car's still here, the one that you want. And at the end of the business day, the manager, Mike, actually gave me a call, took my information down, and said, hey, I'm going to set the car aside, we're going to charge it up for you, it'll be here waiting for you when you get here. So that was really cool, and huge shout out to Hyundai 112 and the staff that I work with. There was Donna, there was Manny, and there was Mike. Like I said, they typically have a no deposit, no hold policy, but they knew I was coming from about 3 hours away, so the evening beforehand, they basically pulled the car, prepped it, and had it waiting for me for whenever I arrived the following day. So the next day I ended up leaving around 6:30 in the morning. I got there around 9:30 in the morning, and the car was there fully charged and waiting for me just like they had said. I also had a one-way rental car, so they actually drove with me to the rental car return place and then drove me back to the dealership. The sales guy also took his time. He made sure that I had the BlueLink account set up, that I had the Electrify America account set up, that I had the digital key set up. It was full service, and 100% would recommend going there if you're nearby. So yeah, that's my story of how I got my Ioniq 5. It wasn't the way I was expecting it to happen, but at the end of the day, I'm happy with what I got. So if you're in the area, definitely check them out. Otherwise, use the websites and the resources here to help you with your search. Good luck.